He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
All right, welcome to the Marlow Show. It's going to be a new show today. It's interesting because I get a lot of email lately. A lot of you guys have been weighing in on mayonnaise. You've been weighing in on Diet Coke. You've been weighing in on guest format. And it's interesting because whenever I mix up the format at all, I always get emails arguing both sides because we had the show yesterday where I did two guests, a little longer interviews with Joel Pollak and John Carney, who I thought had more detailed nuance than I can just cram for before the show. So I thought I'd bring them in, talk about the economy, talk about the Middle East. And so I want to do the show that way. And then I inevitably get emails saying, this is a much better show. Do it like this all the time. And I get others saying, this is a worse show. Where's my news rundown? I need my news rundown. That's what I want to get. So I like it. But just you're always free to share with me whatever's on your mind, whatever you're thinking about the show. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you have a completely different take on condiments. I got one email. This is unbelievable. One guy told me that I'm 100% right about mayo. I don't like mayo. But I did not know it was the devil's condiment, which is apparently what Philip Hall says. And he was making the case with the McDonald's fish sandwich to get no cheese. This is the thing, is that I was watching, I guess President Trump likes a Filet-O-Fish, and I was commenting on how I'll never have one because I'm not a big white bread guy. I am not an American cheese guy. I don't like it. There's this myth that American cheese melts better than the cheddar cheese. It just doesn't. It's just not true. The cheddar cheese, superior melting cheese, has more pop, more flavor. I don't need the American. They're the same price too, right? I mean, like American cheese isn't cheaper. It's one of these things. I don't get it why they impose American on us, but they do. And then the mayo is I don't like mayo, though I have to compliment the rebrand from mayo to aioli is one of the greatest rebrands of all time. You've almost never seen something so successful. It was seen as this sort of trashy, goopy condiment that is, you bring it out at the barbecue or at the weenie roast, and it's just kind of warming up in the sun, a big vat, and just jiggling like Jell-O, but it's made of eggs and vinegar, and it's just nasty. And then they rebranded it to aioli, and all of a sudden it was on every Michelin star restaurant. They're serving you a little ramekin of it. Those are those little cups. Tell me you've worked in the restaurant industry without telling me you've worked in the restaurant industry. You know that those little cups are called ramekins. Bring a little ramekin out. You're dipping the fries in it. Beef tallow fries, of course. We got to keep it maha here. And all of a sudden, it's tolerable, and you reconsider it. But I got a recommendation to go to McDonald's. This is too much, Philip, but I like it, but it's too much. You get no cheese, no tartar sauce, double up on the fish patty, add onions and pickles, and bring your own bun. That is too much, but I like it. I like the spirit of it. I think I've done weird stuff like that before when I'm on a specific eating plan. But here's the trick. If you guys want to cut weight, move more, eat less. Then it's all you got to do. You don't need the fat shot. The fat shot. The fat shot does make you want to eat less. So, all right, we're off to a absolutely silly start to a pretty busy news day. Let's start with the Middle East. Let's just do a hard pivot from mayonnaise thoughts to the Middle East. So I've been reflecting on Trump's trip which is winding down right now, and I think it's just been amazingly successful. And he's done something that is just so outside of the box. With the way he's framed up how to achieve Middle East peace. And he had a big banner, Peace Through Strength, at a big rally for troops who were stationed out there that he had today. He had some comedians come out. It was really very cool. But what Trump is doing is he's going to try to normalize all of these regions, all these terror-prone regions, all of these regions that have even been state sponsors of terror or are currently state sponsors of terror. And he's going to try to normalize them by just making everyone more economically prosperous. And he's trying to figure out a way that he thinks that if everyone works together, they're not going to fight with each other. And this is just a micro lesson that anyone who has a small business or a medium business or a large business, you're just not going to take shots as much at people who you depend on to do business with economically. And I think he sees the people, the Middle East, I think he's been out there a lot, and I think he sees them as economically driven. They want to be influential when it comes to the world economy. They have that ability because there's so many natural resources there, particularly oil. We like oil in Trump's America. And I think he sees it as that if they are working together economically, they're not going to be blasting each other. And that makes a more peaceful world. So everyone could get richer while we're getting more peaceful. So it's not peace through strength. And Misty, here we go. Here comes the title of the show, Peace Through Wealth. That's what he's going for. He's going through peace through wealth, peace through prosperity, if you prefer alliteration. Now, I'll tell you as a writer, alliteration's falling out of style right now. Now you're supposed to go and you're supposed to look for your alliteration and you're supposed to remove it. But I'm kind of partial. I kind of like it. I can dig the alliteration. I don't. I mean, Misty votes for the alliteration. So we had 2 votes for alliteration, but we're hearing that maybe the it's out of style, but it's either peace through wealth or peace through prosperity. That's what he's trying to do. And I'm really optimistic about it. I will tell you a bias that I have. I have some bias towards the new if I trust the person who's bringing about the change. So I don't have bias towards new if it's coming from, the left, the Obama world, the music class. Like I don't trust new. New can be good, but I don't trust initially. When Trump comes up with a new idea, I'm really inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt. And just the idea of taking sanctions off Syria, the idea of taking a plane from Qatar or Qatar or gutter, whichever one you want to say. Francis Martel was saying Qatar to me on our Breitbart Fight Club show today, Breitbart Confidential. So maybe I'm going to have to try it that way. But the point is that naturally I'd be skeptical of these things. But with Trump, he's got this ability to look down the field and to come up with new tactics that he thinks is going to work. And he's got just such a great track record. Remember his first administration, the absolute best thing he did with his foreign policy, it was #1, A+, and the Middle East was a centerpiece of it. No new wars breaking out, more peace throughout the region, more normalization of relations with Israel, which I'm a big pro-Israel guy. As you guys know, I don't tend to dwell on it as much on the show, but I like the idea of being a strong supporter of Israel. All this helps out because it calms the region. People are much more chill when the money's flowing. You know this in your family. You know this in your country. You know this in the world stage. It is, if the cash is flowing, people are going to be happy. They're going to keep it themselves. That's what Trump is doing. And I just feel very, very positive about it. And look, I told you, the Qatar jet or the gutter jet, whatever you want to call it, it's not a great look on paper, but what is he doing? You've got a country that's been a state sponsor of terror. You've got a country that we would have thought of 20 minutes ago, we don't want anything to do with them. And then now all of a sudden what Trump is doing is he's trying to make them strong economic partners. And he's saying, if you could be strong economic partners, that's going to bring us to peace. And maybe you guys have been bad hombres in the past. You're still state sponsors of terror. But if you want to try to be influential in the United States, you got to be chill and you've got to spread the wealth around. And if you do that, then we can play ball, but we need those conditions. And the key point, and Francis always makes this point to me at Breitbart, you've got to be able to back it up with some strategic bombings. You can't do this if you're a pacifist. You can't do this if you're a weenie. Joe Biden, who's no credibility, could never do a strategy like this. But Trump's strategy is backed up with the fact that if you're a bad guy, he will bomb you. He will sanction you. Remember, he took out all those Wagner troops in Syria. He sanctioned Russia. He tried to block the Russian pipeline. He is the strategic bombings against Soleimani, against al-Baghdadi. He slapped new sanctions on Iran. Remember this week, new sanctions. Iran's not playing nice. They're not coming to the table with a productive deal for a nuclear deal. And so he slapped the new sanctions on them. So Trump is saying this is a elevated version of take the silver or take the lead, which is an expression that you get with a lot of these, cartels down south of where I'm at, which is either you're doing business with us or we're going to make your life very difficult and physically painful. I think that's what Trump's doing here. He's saying that we're going to be business partners or we are going to be enemies. And that's it. And I kind of dig it. I got to admit, I kind of dig it. I'm not saying it might not go south on us, but as of now, I kind of dig it. And I think that he's earning support from skeptics, which he deserves. But when you're seeing people like Syrians dancing in the streets following sanctions lifted, how could you feel so bad about such things? It's not to say that they deserve it or they've earned it. Al-Shara, the guy who is leading the country now, is literally a terrorist. I mean, at least that's his background. He is a part of this offshoot, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, as it is known, which was it was against Bashar al-Assad, but it was tied with terrorism. All right, let's talk about gold for a second. You guys have seen what's happening this year. It's up over 25%. It broke past 3,300. It's at 3,250 right now. And I think it's going to go up from here. You guys are seeing the stock market so chaotic, losing trillions, bouncing around wildly. The one thing that's been so dependent each and every day has been gold. New tariffs are going to continue to shake up trade. Inflation's running hot. Our national debt now over $36 trillion. And the big, beautiful bill, I got to say, it's probably going to add to it, unfortunately. I hope not, but Goldman says that gold could hit 3,700 before the year's out. Central banks are buying gold at record levels, and my friends at Priority Gold have a free gold guide for all of you. They'll help you purchase gold yourself. You'll learn a lot about it. They will teach you all about the industry. I think it's really cool to learn about, to fill yourself in on what your options are. You can move into a gold or precious metals IRA or 401k, tax and penalty free. It's just terrific, and I think that it was the biggest no-brainer. If you'd bought gold when I started recommending it, you'd have made a ton of money by now. Here's what you do. Text SNC, as in Salem News Channel. Text SNC to 24999. That's the whole number. You don't need 10 digits. 24999. Text SNC. Get your 2025 gold guide right now, or you can go to prioritygold.com/freedom. It's another option for you. These are great people with a great product or several great products. Check it out. SNC to 24999, prioritygold.com/freedom. All right, so we're talking about a guy who's a younger guy, veteran jihadi, ties to Al-Qaeda, and there actually was a bounty on him, I think, at one point, and we were supposed to capture him and you get paid $10 million, and now Trump is treating him like he's a rock star. Obviously, there's already the deal going on here. And Joel Pollack explained this very well on yesterday's show, I think, for that interview. If you want more nuance, please, I recommend yesterday's broadcast with Joel, where he was walking through how Syria has a potential to economically thrive because it's got a more favorable climate for agriculture, et cetera, than other countries in the region. And so there's endless opportunity there if there's not civil war, if the country is cohesive. And Shiraz promised that eventually we're going to get to democratic elections. Do I believe it? I don't know if I believe it, but I know that it's hard not to improve upon what was there before. More economic prosperousness, more peace. Sounds good. I dig it. So, and everyone's very thankful to Trump, appreciating Trump. And I was told that that's a good thing, what the world thinks of us. So our entire lives, I was told that the problem with Republicans, the world doesn't like Republicans. Well, it seems like he's going around the world and the world loves us. I will plug my Fight Club show, Breitbart Confidential, for premium Breitbart members today with Francis. We talk about how we contrast what Xi Jinping's doing in China right now. And no one has this sort of insight, I don't think. I think Breitbart is the only place you're going to find pointing this out. So Xi Jinping is countering Trump with his own summit in Beijing, with all these Latin American leaders who he's trying to bring in to Belt and Road. He's trying to incorporate it into China's global economic scheme. And this is not great because this is our hemisphere and he's encroaching on our hemisphere. He's trying to be the hegemon in the region, particularly the not just the Western hemisphere, but also, of course, to the south of us. So it is not great, but there's a lot of communists there and he's trying to do business with them, but the optics are not as good. I know the deals are not going to be as good. And so I think that he's parrying Trump, but not super effectively, but we break down what's really going on that show. So I recommend that for more details. But Trump just giving these grand receptions all around the Middle East, there was just nothing like that you could see. Xi Jinping can't do that sort of pomp and circumstance. I want to play a clip. I got Trump. This was pretty hilarious. Check this out.
The job you've done is second to none. You look at this, it's so beautiful. As a construction person, I'm seeing perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto. And just a great job you've done, and what a beautiful place. And I appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time. And that was some greeting. We appreciate it very much.
Freaking job you've done. Absolutely wild stuff. This is perfect marble. This is perfect marble. This is what we call perfecto. Is that what I need a fact check here? Any of you who are in the construction game or in the marble tiles game, do they call it perfecto? Is that a real expression, or is that just Trump winging it? And I almost talked over it. You got to hear this. We're doing this clip again. You got to hear the second half of the clip.
And the job you've done is second to none. You look at this, it's so beautiful. As a construction person, I'm seeing perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto. And just a great job you've done, and what a beautiful place. And we appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time. And that was some greeting we appreciate.
We haven't seen camels like that in a long time. I mean, is that a clip? I mean, that's almost, the audio is a little fuzzy, Misty, but that's almost a drop we got to keep. We haven't seen camels like that in a long time. It's what we call perfecto. The camel culture in the Middle East is unbelievable. It's I spent only a few days in the Middle East in my life. We went for a few meetings. I think it was 2018. And I was in the UAE, and it was in Abu Dhabi only. Did not make it to Dubai. Did not get to do the cool Dubai stuff. And you turn on the TV in hotel rooms, and I was in a hotel room. It was absolutely palatial, one of the biggest rooms I've ever been in my life, all by myself, doing a little bit of work. And I will tell you, you turn the TV and there are all these camel races and camel contests. There's camel beauty pageants. This is not a joke. I'm not trying to razz or make fun or make culturally insensitive comments, but there is a lot of camel stuff going on there. And I can't tell what are the best camels, but I have not seen camels like that in a long time. That's beautiful, beautiful stuff. He's at the top of his game, and he had another grandchild, Tiffany Trump. So it's amazing. He's going around world peace, making grandchildren. Has there anyone who's lived a more thorough life than Donald Trump? It's just inspiring, really is. So great receptions, visiting Qatar, visiting or Qatar, and visiting other places throughout the Middle East. And we'll keep you posted. In the meantime, Ukraine peace is stalling out. Putin no-showed at the planned war summit in Turkey, where Erdogan wants to broker a peace there. Erdogan, not a good guy, bad guy, very bad guy, and maybe crazy. And I do feel like most actors in the region who are actors, not like Hollywood actors, but the people who are decision makers, who are deciders, who are power players in the region, I do feel like overall most of them are not irrational. Most of them are rational, and they tend to make the smartest moves for their country, for their people, the things that will allow for them to accumulate power, to maintain power, and to do the best that they can for their countries, even though we might have different values. At least I feel like I can understand it. Erdogan's not one of those guys. He seems nuts to me, and I don't know why he'd be the one who would broker a peace, but he's trying to do it. Putin didn't show up, and Trump responded by saying that it's not going to happen. Peace is not going to happen until I show up and talk to Putin. So Trump said that, and I think that's probably true. And I feel like Putin's only going to really work with Trump on this anyway. I feel like that suits Putin's brand. So we have that to look forward to, but that piece is on hold, and that should surprise pretty much no one. And I admit there's a small sense of relief. I don't know what Erdogan's going to do there. That just struck me as very odd that he'd be the one to bring about peace. And according to Trump, that's not going to happen. All right. Next set of issues. Oh, yeah. A massive $142 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia. Look, it's same deal. You can make the case. We don't want the Saudi money being passed around, but it is, if we're doing these sorts of deals with them, they're going to be cooperative on other fronts. We don't know yet what fronts, but I do think that's gotta be a factor in Trump's thinking on what he's doing over there. All right. Next slate of stuff I want to bring up is Democrats in just total despair, not disarray. I've been saying disarray, but they're in despair now. Only 1 in 3 members are optimistic about their party's future, according to a new study from the Associated Press and NORC Center for Public Affairs Research. So not going to be a right-wing group. And why wouldn't they be feeling a lack of confidence? All of their leaders are just going absolutely nuts. We learned that the great Sri Tanadar's impeachment efforts are not going well. Now, he got busted pretty bad. I've been playing a lot of Sri in the show, making fun of his hair, which I know is a bit trite. I know that's a bit trite. But a journalist named Charlie LaDuff, who is been out there, I think he's familiar to some of you guys. He, I guess, tracked down Sri and was trying to grill him on if he actually knows his own district. Check this out. This has to be seen or at least heard to be believed.
I don't know.
What are the 5 Grosse Points cities?
Well, look, I'm not here to answer a quiz. I'm here to say that I'm going to fight for the people of Detroit. I'm going to fight for my constituents.
And Grosse Pointe
and all of the Grosse Points and all of Taylor and every
E-course.
every part of the 13th district.
I'm just do this real quick. Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe Woods, Grosse Pointe Farms, and Grosse Pointe Shores. Okay.
That's right.
You know, on your campaign filings, it says occupation. Yours says United States government. Aren't you employed by the people of the United States?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, you fix that one. Okay, and finally, you're getting nailed with this one. The beagles. You abandoned the beagles, left them to die in their cages at your pharmaceutical
I love
testing.
animals. You look at
Sensational. Absolutely sensational. He doesn't know his own district. He feels like he works for the government and not the people. And the bust on the Beagles. The Beagles such a clean bust. It just, every time the Democrats act like they're the ones with the bleeding hearts, that they're the ones who are the most empathetic, the most sympathetic. I got to tell you, there's so many great conservationists. There's so many people who care about animals. And I was thinking about my friend Mark Levin, who wrote a whole book about rescuing a dog. Michael Savage, who's been a lifelong fighter for environmental issues. And it is, Republicans are the most compassionate. How many people in the pro-life movement are just trying to save babies, just trying to do our best to save babies? It is and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later because I got a slate of immigration issues. Robert Kennedy had the most brilliant line. He said Joe Biden's border policy was the biggest facilitator for child abuse in American history. I'll have Brandon Darby on the show, our Cartel Chronicles editor at Breitbart, at some point soon. But Brandon's whole point, the whole reason he got into conservative media, is because he was a left-winger who saw that there was human trafficking going across our border, that there were human beings, young women, children who were being put into sexual slavery in order to be brought up, thought of as chattel by the cartels to come into America to work for pennies. They all got raped along the way. They were put into horrible conditions. They were taken advantage of by the elite in America and the gangsters in Mexico. And he wanted to fight back against them. And that's why he ended up at Breitbart. So this whole idea that the left has a monopoly on compassion and empathy is just not true. It's completely false, and we need to keep pushing back on that. But they keep riding this thing. Here's a blast from the past. We got Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen, known left-wing activist. He's doing his hard work and people out of work out there routine, which he does. He's got that unbelievable banter dialed into all the sets. I've never been to a Springsteen concert, but part of the thing that you're going to is you're going to hear the banter between the songs. And check out this rant he goes on.
Now, easy, Roy. There's some very weird, strange, and dangerous shit going on out there right now. In America, they are persecuting people for using their right to free speech and voicing their dissent. This is happening now.
So he's in England, and this is a point that I make that I will mainstream this point. This will be one of the points I am known for, because I make it more than anyone, and I will continue to make it. There should be another standard when you're an American, particularly a rich and powerful American, to go overseas, and you should not trash our country overseas. Here's the analogy. You're allowed to think something negative about a spouse or about a parent or about a coworker or about your company. But the context in which you relay those messages to the public matters quite a big deal. You would never vocalize something about your spouse publicly unless you're a maniac. You would never say something negative about your parents publicly. Would you say something negative about coworkers, your company? No, not unless you want to get fired. So for you to be a rich, powerful American, someone who has enjoyed all of our largesse, get to be in the entertainment space, where you spent half a century going around the world, particularly going around the country, claiming to represent working class Americans and getting lauded for it, feted for it, getting magazine covers, all of this, these blessings that you've had to live through, and then go overseas and trash us. That is a bridge that is just not acceptable to me. And politicians do it, celebrities do it. And I just think that there should be a threshold that if you're going to make criticisms of this country, do it here. Don't go overseas and complain to other people about us.
In America, the richest men are taking satisfaction in abandoning the world's poorest children to sickness and death.
What's he even talking about here? We're now the anti-children. We're the ones who are having the children. We're the ones who don't want to abort the children. And aren't you a pretty rich guy? What do you think he's worth? $1 billion, couple billion? Because he sings songs? ironically, because he sings songs about the working class. People make 50 grand a year. He made $1 billion doing that. It is, I just don't get the pandering to foreign audiences. It's pretty muted applause too, by the way. I don't think everyone's vibing with this. A lot of people think that this is rude. He's being rude right now.
This is happening now. In my country, they're taking sadistic pleasure in the pain that they inflict on loyal American workers. They're rolling back historic civil rights legislation.
All right, so who are the people who are taking the sadistic pleasure? And is that what we're doing? We're not just trying to make the government efficient. Why can't we ever have a plane where we just debate actually what's going on, which is that we think that the government got too big and we can't afford everyone in the government? So maybe that's what's happening, is that we're just trying to make some cuts because our debt's unsustainable and we were lied to by our government about all the major issues in recent time, the Russian collusion hoax. The media is broken. For decades, big cable and legacy media have filtered information to hide the truth. But thanks to podcasts and new media like this show, the truth can break through, providing voices and views the legacy outlets block from the air. But big cable still has one major way to control information, and that's access. They do this by limiting access to something called spectrum, the invisible airwaves that power affordable wireless internet, and by forcing you into their bundles, keeping independent media out of reach. Trump and Republicans in Congress have a chance to do something big here by making more spectrum available and breaking big cable's stranglehold on information. So there's a couple things you could do to find out more. You can go to endthecableopoly.org. That's endthecableopoly.org for more information about how to make more spectrum available. And if you're convinced, you should call your senators and your members of Congress and say, hey, why don't you work with President Trump and try to make more spectrum available? So endthecableopoly.org to find more. All right, so here's one of the points here that I think is really important to make. Is there's context when you're going to complain about someone in your life, then where you do so matters. Take your family, for example, a wife, parents, children. You can vocalize criticism to them in private, in your own home, but you don't go outside of the home and then just start complaining about all of them. Same thing with your company. Do you think maybe anyone's had something negative to say about, I don't know, me at Breitbart? Probably not often, but probably something. But no one goes out there in the press and says, oh, Alex is terrible or something, because you never do that, because human beings don't do that, because it undermines the whole and it's very ungrateful and it comes off as whiny. And that's what Bruce Springsteen's doing. He's benefited from America as much as any human being. And he is just saying Trump's side with the dictators. It's also a pretty incoherent argument that he makes, which is that we're abandoning all the children. The left is just constantly abandoning children, and I just don't. I don't really see it. And they abandon the Beagles. Let's just make that point. That's a very important point that we learned from Sri Thanadar. He abandoned the Beagles. They're just Beagle abandoners. They've also got these protests that are popping up, and they're also just sort of angry and not really going anywhere. Here's one that was during Robert Kennedy was speaking, and here's how the left deals with it in the Congress. You're missing this pretty epic footage if you're just listening to the streams. There's so much security. I think that's Ben from Ben and Jerry. He's there. You know what's interesting? I was doing down a rabbit hole on this. Ben from Ben and Jerry is there. So you would think that Ben and Jerry was mad at RFK because of like food dyes, or I gotta say, the Ben and Jerry ice cream. There is a viewpoint on the right. Some people on the right are comfortable with that because they live out loud. And they're not sort of subtly being subversively left-wing. They're openly left-wing. They wear their politics on their shoes or sleeve, whatever. They wear it in your shoes, wear it in your sleeve. I would avoid it. I would avoid the Ben and Jerry's. Like, why support them? It doesn't make any sense to me. The other thing is they put the candy in the ice cream, which is cheating. It's very hard to endorse the companies that feel like you got to put the little pieces of chocolate-covered fish into your ice cream to make it good. I mean, ice cream should be pretty freaking good on its own, right? I mean, it's like one of the best things in the world on its own. So I think they're cheaters, and that's my take on Ben and Jerry's. They're cheaters. But what was interesting is I think they were protesting about Gaza. So I think that's their main beef, or there's got to be some sort of a pun there, but I can't think of it right now. But they're mad at RFK Jr., but they're also mad about Gaza. So they're just mad about everything. And this is the point I'm trying to make. And I was thinking about this with Springsteen. These people are so unhappy. Let's see. I think he's going to start rolling here. So let's see what he says.
Are reminded disruptions will not be tolerated.
In the Congress, he's screaming.
Members of the audience are reminded disruptions will not be permitted while the committee conducts its business. Capitol Police are asked to remove the individuals from the hearing room.
If you have this wiring, please send me an email, aloha@alexmarlowe.com. I want to get to know you. I might even bring you in the show. Especially if you're a successful person and you've got a pile of money and you could go travel around the world and you could write something and people might read it. To show up at a hearing, to make a scene, to get dragged out by law enforcement. And I mean, is this a fetish of some sort? Like, what does he accomplish? He accomplishes nothing. I mean, does he go on MSNBC after and they interview him? But it's just maybe, like, did that happen? It is really interesting. And this is what I'm saying, why I bring this up in the context of the Democrats it's not just disarray. They have no ability to find a single issue where they can make progress. That where they're at right now is that in one issue after the next, they're choosing the 20 out of the 80-20, maybe the 3 out of a 97-3 is in the case with deporting illegal alien criminals. And they just do not have any sort of leadership. Aside from maybe Debbie Dingell, Congresswoman, who I think took over from her husband who had held the seat for like 50 years. Let's see all the hard work she's putting in the Congress. Check this out. If you miss the visuals here, you're really missing out. Here we go. Fast asleep, if you guys miss it. And she had 3 waters going. Those taxpayer-funded waters. I mean, if she's going to get the Perrier, then she should at least do some work for it. So that's it. That's what they got. So you wonder why they're not inspired. And she's only 71. So that's a spring chicken for Democrat lawmakers. So Trump's going around the world, high energy, cutting deals. Democrats don't even know who's in their district, and they're falling asleep if they even bother to show up. Gavin Newsom is got another brilliant idea that he's going to implement when he runs for president. He's going to do more high-speed rail. High-speed rail. This has been ongoing joke here in California for just about as long as I've been alive, is that the Democrats love a high-speed rail. They always talk about it. We're going to all have personalized drones that fly in the sky, and they're all going to be monitored with sensors so that we're never going to have accidents. And the Democrats are still going to be talking about high-speed rail. I mean, it's going to go on forever. This has been a joke since I was in a 1-bedroom apartment in blogging from an IKEA couch that had this removable cover. We got the flower covers for whatever reason. Miss Dr. Marlowe liked it. And I just remember when it dawned on me, and this had to have been 15 years ago, how stupid the high-speed rail concept is. And we're still here. We're still doing it. And in Newsom's effort, try to become president, he is going to try to add an extra $1 billion, the state's budget for high-speed rail, even though we're in a massive deficit in California anyway. And he had a surplus that he blew. He ruined it. He had the surplus, spent it all. But he's trying to find a lane, and he knows that this historic failure, Trump's pointing this out, if he does not get a high-speed rail bill by the time he runs for president, then he's going to get dunked on by whichever Republican, because we were promised it. Our money was confiscated for it. And it is something that he's a hugely vulnerable here among his many other vulnerabilities. So California, also another couple was charged out there for impeding ICE agents by attempting to ram a car. So he's got a lot of problems. We have tons of illegal aliens here, millions of them. And he's admitted, by the way, that he doesn't want them getting the Medicaid, doesn't want the illegal aliens getting the health care, because as I've said many, many times to all of you on the show, So if you're an illegal alien, you're in California, you show up at a doctor's office, show up at a clinic, show up at a hospital, you're getting care. And we're worrying about who's paying for it later, which typically means the taxpayers. So now that he knows he's going to get completely roasted when he runs for president for blowing that surplus and putting California in a deficit and into massive debt, when that comes up, that he wants to be able to say he did something about it, but it's just too late. He's been in public life for 20, 30 years, and we've wasted so much money on this. So he does not want to have the illegal aliens to continue to burn up so much of our budget with their health care. And that is what we do in this country, because despite what people have said about us, we do treat illegal aliens with dignity. And what that means is that if you get here and you're sick and you're bleeding or you have a broken bone, we set the bone before we ask who's going to pay for it. That's what dignified people do for other dignified people. That's why it's so important to build the wall, to get the fence up, to make sure there's no incentives to come here, because then we don't have that headache. We don't have the headache of what to do when people are here and sick, because we want to take care of the sick when they're here. So we need to make it so that they're not all here. We cannot feed and house and clothe and treat with medication all of the world's poor. We can't do it. It's not realistic. We don't have the money. We don't have the time. We don't have the resources. So we need to take care of Americans. But if you're here, if you're in our house, we're going to take care of you. And so that's why we need to stop this. But it would have been nice for Newsom to have said this 20 years ago. Other positive stuff on the immigration front: U.S. DOJ filing terrorism charges against the Sinaloa cartel members for fentanyl distribution. They brought in so much. They've killed so many people. And this is just a new heightened approach, intensity. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think that it is a more good news. And a lot of them are breaking at Breitbart News. So we're trying to bring you these stories first, which is great. Colorado murder rate has taken a dive after ISIS started to deport Tren de Aragua gang members. So this is the whole thing, is that once you start understanding, the polls are so overwhelming. We're talking 97-3 that Americans want illegal alien gang members deported. They want violent illegal aliens deported. Once that we hit that number, then we're going to have safer streets. We're going to have a safer country. And maybe this does make Democrats viable in future elections. But I got to tell you, that is secondary to me than having a safe America. And Colorado is a very beautiful state. To let Democrats ruin it because they won't enforce immigration laws, that's not a good thing. We don't like this. So we champion this. This is a very good thing. And there are more immigration news to come throughout the week. Right now, the Supreme Court is hearing arguments in the birthright citizenships case. You guys know my take on birthright citizenship, which is that it is completely illogical that the location of the woman when she gives birth is what determines whether or not someone's a citizen. If you're a criminal and you're here and you broke laws to get here just to give birth, you do birth tourism. You come here on some sort of a program where you're just trying to give birth here to get all the benefits of being a citizen. It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. If you're someone who comes on business and you're here for a prolonged period of time, maybe you're a diplomat, maybe you're someone who's some sort of a plan for your career where you're legally here for a certain amount of time, and you or your spouse gives birth, that doesn't automatically make that person a citizen. There's got to be other conditions that are in place. The location of the female body, it just doesn't make sense. And it was obviously determined in this way to give the Democrats political benefit, because there's no logic to it. So it should go away. I hope it goes away, but we're going to see the arguments that are taking place now. But I will tell you, if it doesn't, this should be highly motivating to Republicans and conservatives that if we lose this one and they determine, the Supreme Court, that birthright citizenship does exist and the location of the female body at the time of birth, even if it's an illegal alien criminal who shouldn't be here, if that determines citizenship for the rest of the child's life, then that is all the more motivation to work hard, to win elections, and to make sure that all the judges, not just 4 or 5, or if we're lucky 6 on the Supreme Court and all these district courts, that they are able to think in a clear way about the law, what it's here for, and not use lawfare and think of it as all politicized. All right, Tariff-mageddon news. Not happening still. Retail sales have edged upwards, boosted by restaurants, appliances, and furniture. So all the doom and gloom about the economy, not there yet. So we're not there. We're going to keep an eye on stuff. Trump threw me a curveball, though. He said that he urged Apple to boost U.S. iPhone production instead of moving to India. I kind of get it. I think it's an art of the deal 3D chess move. I'm very enthusiastic about Apple moving to India because I don't think it's realistic for America to do all of Apple's manufacturing. And I think that going to a country that is more hospitable towards America, that is our ally in the region and is going to be inexpensive to make those products relative to most of the rest of the world, that's a nice step for me. But Trump saying that, well, we actually just want them all here, I like it in a way, but also not realistic. So it felt like a win. And I was surprised Trump didn't just take it as a W. But I think I know what he's doing. He doesn't want to be so blatantly anti-China, where he says, Apple left China, that's a win for me. I think messaging-wise, it makes sense for him to say, well, I wish Apple just came here. But that isn't realistic. I like that Apple's saying no new plants in China. We're going to start moving production to India. That's a good win and maybe an interim win. But Trump saying not enough, they got to be here. So I find that to be really interesting because I think Trump has got this posture where he's not going to call out China directly. This is another piece of evidence because this was a big loss for China to lose Apple. And Trump is still not treating it like a win because he's saying, well, America didn't get it, India did. So interesting. And I think worth tracking that Trump pointed that out. This is my favorite item of the day. So Joe Biden, we're in this news cycle where everyone's acting like it just dawned on them that Joe Biden was in mental decline. He apparently didn't recognize George Clooney at a fundraiser, according to this new book by Jake Tapper and some other guy with based on anonymous sources, saying that there was some sort of massive cover-up for the Joe Biden's mental decline. There was no cover-up. We all knew he was in mental decline. We all knew that he was sniffing kids and couldn't tell the difference between his wife and his sister and didn't know where he was and kept falling asleep. We all knew he was in no position to be president, and everyone went along with it. Democrats were very fine with it because they knew Kamala would have gotten creamed if she had run, and they did make her run eventually, and she did get creamed. That was why there was no cover up. They still thought he was the guy who was most likely to win. Joe still maintains he would have won if he stayed in. So, but anyway, him not recognizing George Clooney at a fundraiser, the left is holding this up as this is 2022 apparently. The left was holding this up as some example that Biden must be some sort of an idiot. He doesn't recognize Clooney. You guys do not understand Joe Biden. This is not about George Biden not recognizing Clooney. Joe Biden was bigfooting George Clooney. Joe Biden doesn't like George Clooney. George Clooney is a proxy for Barack Obama, a guy that has made a fool out of Joe Biden over the years, more often than not, has not stood by him despite the fact that Biden was so loyal to Obama. That's how Joe Biden perceives Barack Obama. And if Clooney's going to come and want to talk to Joe Biden is going to act superior to George Clooney. If you don't understand this about Biden, you don't understand Joe Biden. So everyone acting like this, oh, wow, he doesn't recognize Clooney. He must have lost it. No, he was bigfooting him. That's what Joe Biden does. It was a classic Joe Biden alpha power play move. That's why we're Biden maximalists here on the Marlowe Show. And I just think the media's got this one completely wrong. One thing the media's got right, I'll say this, is that HBO is now going back from Max to HBO Max. So they're putting the HBO back. I only observe this because I feel like I say things and they feel obvious to me. And then I feel like no one agrees. So then maybe I feel like I'm nuts. HBO changed their branding to HBO Max, and then they took the HBO off, and then it's just Max. So Max is a generic name. There's millions of people named Max. Just look at the volume knob on anything you have. The knobs on your blow dryer will have the word Max on it. Max is a ubiquitous word in our culture. HBO does not have some sort of claim over the word Max. HBO is one of the most iconic brands in American media. And in an age where we're all thinking about how do you grow our brand, each person is their own brand. Where do we position our brand in the market? HBO had the greatest brand, HBO. It was thought of as prestige television, the best America has to offer in terms of entertainment. And they dropped the HBO and left Max. I thought that was the dumbest brand move I've ever seen. And they're putting the HBO back. And I just note this because sometimes on the show, I'm talking about something and you guys might think, oh, why is he going down this rabbit hole? And then a year or two later, all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, of course, we need to go back to these things. It matters. One thing we're going back to apparently is good-looking women on the cover of Sports Illustrated. So new Sports Illustrated, maybe I'll try to bring in someone we can talk more about this, but Sports Illustrated going back to hot people on their covers, but they're doing a little bit of woke, a little bit, just some light wokeness. One of they do a variety of covers. One of them is a woman named Lauren Chan, who I guess is the first open lesbian. So this is a big thing because there's not as many lesbians now because we've been conditioning all the lesbians to believe that you're trans. So there's fewer lesbians around. This will be a thing. Mark this down. This is going to be a thing. This will be a major talking point for conversation. The erasure of lesbians to replace with trans. That's happening. So Lauren Chan, the lesbian, she's got, beautiful person, but definitely way more overweight than you would typically think of for a bikini model. But that's, I guess you got to do something. You got to throw some level of woke in there. And but it does look like they're starting to return to hot people on the covers and not just kind of weird looking people. But they will always do a little bit of woke. I'm just wondering if the trans will be outraged that there does not seem to be any trans on the cover this year for Sports Illustrated. So there you go. There's your free Sports Illustrated plug. I think we got the job done today. It's tons of email, really good email. Should I save stuff? You guys are doing good. You just email me on all sorts of stuff, trying to correct me on some tax issues. We got the Shri Tanadar hair issue came up. I'll save some of it. So if you want to get into some email, try to do some email tomorrow. aloha@alexmarlowe.com. That'll be today's show. Thanks for Misty for doing a lot of extra editing as I had a couple of coughing fits during the course of the show. So thanks to you there, Misty. And talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for listening or watching.